This is Josh White with JW Math Tutoring. Today's video is going to cover Digital SAT Math Practice Test 6, Module 2A from the Bluebook app, the easier of the two second modules in the math section. So let's go ahead and get to it.
But life is a dream the calculus could never predict.
Just before I begin this Digital SAT Practice Test 6 Module 2A, the easier of the two second math modules, please keep in mind that first of all, this video may be longer than the allotted time for the section because I do like to show multiple methods whenever possible when solving these problems. And second, of course, if you like this video, please do give a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and sign up for notifications as well. All right, so just getting started here on the first question, we are just converting 2,300 centimeters to meters. So all we have to do is just take 2,300 centimeters and multiply that by the conversion factor they give us. We will put meters on top because that's what we want our final answer in, and we will put the centimeters on the bottom. So those units cancel out. All you're really doing in this problem is dividing 2,300 by 100. So the correct answer for this is just going to be letter B, right here, 23. Next up, we have a function, and they basically want to know, for what value of x does this function equal 72? So you can either set the function equal to 72 and then just solve by dividing by 8, okay, and you're going to get 9. Or an alternate method would be just to go to Desmos. Basically, you can type the function. We should do it like this. And then just type y equals 72 because we want to know what the x value is when the y value is 72. So we just have to zoom out and see, okay, where's the intersection point? All right, it's right here. It's at 972. So that just confirms the correct answer is the x coordinate of that point, or 9. All right, next up, what is 20% of 440? So for this percentage question, basically, you're doing 20% of, which is multiplication, 440. Well, convert 20% to a decimal, which is just 0.2, multiply that by 440, you're going to get 88. So the correct answer for this is going to be letter B, 88. But I do want to show you, if you go to Desmos, you can literally just type in the entire problem right here. One step, get the answer. 20% of 440 gives you 88. Correct answer. All right, here we have two lines that are intersecting. So we're going to have a geometry problem here dealing with some vertical angles. So angle 1 is 72. Angle 2, which is a vertical angle across from angle 1, will also be 72 because vertical angles are congruent. So the correct answer for this one is just letter A, and there's nothing else to do. Next up, they want to know what the solution to this equation is. So the easiest way to do this is just to, first of all, add each of these and get 11, and then subtract 11 from both sides and get P equals -1. Okay? So the correct answer to this is just letter A, -1. Now, you could technically also solve this by doing back solving, meaning take your answer choices, plug them in for P, and see which one gives you 10 on the left side of the equation. I don't think that's the fastest method. However, if you didn't want to solve it out, you could literally just go to Desmos, type it in with X instead of P, and look where the vertical line is. Okay, where's the vertical line is at -1. Okay, so the correct answer for this is just -1, and we can move on. All right, here we have a graph of a rational function. They just want to know, though, what is the y-coordinate of the y-intercept. So it's just this point right here, and this is just going to be 3. It's the point 0, 3. That's it. No more work to do. Next up, we have two intersecting lines on a graph, and they want to know what the solution is. So that's just, basically the intersection point right here, 2, 4. So correct answer is going to be letter B. That's it. Nothing more to do. Next up, they want to know the positive solution to this equation. So easiest way to solve this would be to add 53 to both sides. If you do that, you get k² = 144. and then square root both sides. K equals technically plus or minus 12, because when you take the square root in an equation, you have to do a plus or minus. So, of course, the answer is going to be letter D, 12. Now, other ways you could solve this. You could back solve it, meaning take the answer choices and square it, subtract 53 from it, and see, do you get 91? It's only going to work. That's only going to work for letter D. It's not going to work for the others. They'll give you a number other than 91. Or, again, the other option is we just go to Desmos, and now when I type it in, I'm going to use X instead of K. So now, let's zoom out. Okay, what are my answers? Negative 12 and positive 12 right here. So, okay, obviously the positive one is, positive 12. Next up, we have a system of equations, and they want to know what the value of y is. So if you're just going to go ahead and solve this, by hand, you can just plug in 8 for x in the second equation, and then you can solve that. Subtract 8 on both sides, divide by 3. You're going to get 6 for y, which is the correct answer. Now, you could also do this in Desmos, of course. We just go to Desmos, type in the two equations, we see where they intersect. So they intersect at 8, 6, and of course we are looking for the y-coordinate. So that just confirms 6 is the correct answer. Next up, we have a problem which is basically describing something in text, and they want us to convert it to an inequality. So the answer is going to be letter D right here, because in this situation, they're talking about something being between 150 miles an hour and 170 miles an hour. So in other words, there's a floor and there's a ceiling. The first three answer choices basically only have ceilings, okay? The first one says, it's anything less than 20 miles per hour. Second one, basically any number less than 150. Third one, anything less than 170. D is the only one that has a floor, which says it, it has to be at least 150 miles per hour. So the correct answer here is just going to be letter D. In 11, we have two functions graphed, and we want to know what the solution to the system of equations is. So again, we look for the intersection point. It's right here. It is just 1, 5. The correct answer for this is just going to be letter C, and we don't need to do any more work. For question number 12, here we have an absolute value function, and we want to know, they want you to evaluate that for x equals 4. So all you're doing is you're just plugging in 4 for x, which is just the absolute value 22, which is just 22. So the correct answer here is letter D. And of course, you could go to Desmos, and you could do it in Desmos as well. In other words, you could just type in the function, and then you just go down here and say, what's g of 4? Okay, it's 22. There's our correct answer. All right, next one, we have an isosceles triangle, and we have its perimeter. So let's just say these are the two sides that are congruent. So total perimeter is 36 feet, and we know that the two congruent sides are each 10. So this is 10, this is 10. Basically, this is x, and the whole thing together adds up to 36. So you could set up the equation, x plus 20 equals 36, because 10 plus 10 is 20. So x has to equal 16. You could also, so correct answer here is going to be C. You could also back solve this, meaning you could say, okay, start with 10. 10, 10, and 10. Is that 36? No. 10, 10, and 12. Does that add up to 36? No. Move on to 16. Yes, that does add up to 36. And get it that way as well. So whether you set up the equation and solved it, or whether you just plugged in the answer choices to see which one equals 36, either way, it's letter C, 16. Next up, we have a line, basically a linear function here, and they want to know, in this situation, what was the initial deposit on, estimated by this graph? So the initial deposit means the deposit when it started, i.e. when time is equal to 0. So it's just looking for the y value right here, which is just going to be 20. Okay, so the correct answer to this question is just 20. That's it. We can move on. All right, here we have a a question that deals with some probability. So basically, you have to do two things here. First, we have to find the probability of getting a customer that is in theater C. And then second, we have to multiply that to turn it into an actual numerical value. So basically what's going on is the probability of selecting a customer in theater A is 0.48. That means 48% of the customers are in A. So I'm just going to use percentages just, here. So 48% are in A, 24% are in B. If you add those two together, they add up to 72%. So all the remaining customers, in other words, subtracting that from 100 or 28%, are those that are in theater C. So, in other words, the probability of selecting someone in theater C is 0.28. Just divide by 100 to turn the percentage into a decimal. Now, it doesn't ask for a percentage here. It says how many actual customers are in theater C. So we have to take this and you have to remember to multiply it by the total or by the 350. So that means the correct answer is 98. There are 98 customers in theater C. Note, and so correct answer here is letter D. An alternate way you could do this as well is you could do, 0.48 times 350 and then 0.24 times 350, add those together and then subtract that from 350. That's an alternate way to find out how many people would be left in theater C as well. Because basically, this is the number of people in A, this is the number of people in B. Add those together, subtract from 350, and you're going to get 98 as your answer choice as well. Next up, we have another student-produced response question. So here he saves 2/5 of the $215 that he earns. Okay, so that means we just pay 2/5 of 215. That's how much he saves every week. So how much is he going to save in 9 weeks? Well, just multiply the whole figure by 9. So you can just type this into your calculator, type in a Desmos, whatever you want to do. It's going to come out to 774. So the correct answer for this one is just 774. And that's it, nothing else to do. All right, so here you have an exponential function, and you are asked for some point, and you're given like charts, possible points here. Want to know which set of points are actually on the function. So there's multiple ways you could do this. You could first pick a point, like say 0. Okay, so I plug in 0 for x. 2 to the 0 is just 1, and 32 times 1 is 32. So I know that the point 0, 32 is going to be on the graph. Okay, get rid of it, get rid of it. All right, we're down to 2 choices. So notice here the 1 value for x has the same y value, so we can't check that. So really now you're checking -1. So it's 32 times 2 to the -1, or 32 times 1/2, because 2 to the -1 is the same as 1 over 2 to the +1, which is just 1/2. So it's 16. Correct answer is going to be letter D for this question. However, I will show you, you could very easily do this in Desmos as well. So what I would probably do is I would graph the function, all right here. And now I would go through and check. I'd say, okay, so when it's at 0, it's at 32. So that eliminates the first 2 again. We're now down to C and D. And now when I go to -1, I can just trace along here. I just need to estimate. I don't need the exact value. So right here, okay, -1/16. That confirms that it's D. It's not 1/16. It's not C. So I matched up 2 points. It's going to have to be D, and you could just get it, basically from tracing along the graph, looking for the points. All right, here we have a cylinder, and we are given the diameter and height, and then we just want to know what the volume is. So if I just draw out a quick sketch of a cylinder here. Okay, so all the way across is 22. That means technically halfway across is just going to be 11. So in other words, diameter is 22, but the radius is half that. So the radius is going to be 11. Height is going to be 6. So now we just need the formula for volume of a cylinder. It's pi r squared h. One thing to mention, if you do not remember it, it is right here on the reference sheet. Here's the cylinder. Volume is pi squared h. So you can just go there and, double check it. So we're going to do pi times 11 squared times 6. That should work out to 726 pi. Correct answer for this one's going to be letter C. All right, next up, number 19. They are asking for the slope of this line. So, one way you could do this is just basically multiply everything out and go ahead and, then combine your like terms and then figure out what the number in front of the x is. So for example, I'm going to have y equals 29 thirds x plus 10 thirds, although that part doesn't matter, and then plus 5x. So now I'm really going to add these two together. Again, you could do this all in Desmos, but I'll just show you the fractions by hand. So 5 over 1, I'm just going to multiply by 3 over 3. So it's 29 thirds plus 15 thirds x. So it's going to be 44 thirds x plus 10 thirds. All right, so the slope of this line is just 44 over 3. So I'm just going to enter the answer that way. You could also go ahead and enter it as the following decimals. You could also convert it and write it as 14.66 or 14.67. Okay, either one of these would be acceptable. In the first one, you're just truncating the decimal. Second one, you are rounding the decimal. Okay, and it basically will just round up. Now, how could we do this in Desmos, though, as an alternate method to get the answer? All right, so what I'm going to do is I am going to just graph the function. Okay, so here's the function. Now, the problem is the values are not great in the sense that they're decimals. Ideally we would look for like something that's like right on a an exact integer value, but we'll just use the x and y intercepts. That's fine. So what I'm going to do is notice here the first one is 3.3333. So if I type enough things here, yes, this comes up. So technically the first point is just 0.10 thirds, okay? So I'll make a note of that. And my x-intercept, let's zoom in here, see if I can get negative 0.2273 negative 0.22727. Let's see, does that give me anything nice? Okay, yes it does. It gives me negative 5 over 22. So notice all I did is I basically just kept repeating the pattern there. And you can zoom in even further, even more, to just try to get, 0.22727. Okay, so now I'm going to calculate the slope. So the y-intercept value, so for the top one, I'm going to do the 10 thirds minus 10 thirds minus the y value for my x-intercept, which is just 0. Now divide that whole thing by the x-coordinate from my y-intercept, which is 0, and then minus the negative 5 over 22. Okay, so notice here I've got the 14.666666, okay, 7. So I could enter in 14.66, which we know is correct. I could round it and do 14.67, also correct. Or let's see if it'll give me, yeah, it actually gives me, because I use the correct fractions, 44 over 3, the equivalent fraction as well. So that's how you could, again, basically, given the equation of a line, that's how we can calculate basically the slope of the line by just grabbing the x-intercept and the y-intercept, essentially manually typing in the slope formula and then getting the value that way. For the next question, number 20, we have a student produce response where we have a circle, and inside that circle we have a rectangle, and we are given the area of the rectangle, and we're told some information about it as well, which is that the diagonal is twice the length of the shortest side. So I'm just going to mark this side as x and make this diagonal 2x. Now, it wants us to find the diameter of the circle, but notice that the diameter here is actually will be the same as this longest, this diagonal of the rectangle. All right, so the key to this one is realizing that you can set up the Pythagorean theorem on one of these two right triangles. For example, I'm going to make this y. And you can go ahead and say like a squared, which would be x squared, plus b squared, which would be y squared, is equal to c squared, which is just 2x quantity squared. So if you do that and then simplify it, okay, you get y squared equals just 3x squared. Then you square root both sides. Okay, so you get this side equal to, side down here equal to square root 3x. All right, so now we know both the length and the width of the rectangle in terms of just x, in terms of one of the sides. So we can set that equal to the area because we know the area for a rectangle is just, length times width. So we just go ahead and multiply x times root 3x and set that equal to 1089 square root 3. So notice the root 3's will just cancel out. You can just divide on both sides by them and you get x squared equals 1089. Then you square root that. X is just going to equal 33. And now, of course, the diameter is equal to the hypotenuse, which is just 2 times x. So 2 times that will just come out to be 66. So the correct answer for this problem is 66. Now, one other thing just to notice, you can actually skip some of the work for this problem. Basically, all the stuff down here, you can actually skip this if, when you're looking at the picture, you recognize that this has to be a 30, 60, 90 right triangle, because we have the shorter side of the rectangle, shorter leg, shortest side here, and we're told the hypotenuse, the diagonal of it, which is the hypotenuse, is double that. So that actually allows you to recognize that this has to be a 30, 60, 90 triangle the way it's set up, and then you could recognize, oh, from short leg to long leg, you just multiply by root 3. So again, that allows you to skip all this work, but if you don't recognize that, it's not that much work just to restate this length in terms of x, to just go ahead and solve for it and get root 3x. All right, next up we have question number 21, where we have a linear inequality in two variables, and we want to match up one of these two tables, basically. So again, with the questions like this, there's multiple ways that you could do this. So what I like to do is first plug in 0 for y, because notice that these answer choices all have a 0 down here in the y column. So if you do that, you just get 2x greater than 883. Therefore, if you divide this, you get x is greater than 441.5. So in order for a point to be a solution to this, if the y value is 0, the x value has to be greater than 441.5. So first one's out. Second one's out, because notice these are 440. They are not greater than 441.5. C is good and D is good. Okay, so now we have to find something to compare C and D. So so when we're looking down here, okay, we've got different values here for the -2 versus the -4. So whatever, let's try plugging in -2 and seeing what happens. So we got 2x minus -2 greater than 883. If we go ahead, change that to plus, because it's minus and negative, and then subtract it, we got 2x greater than 881, or x is greater than 440.5. Okay, so now let's compare C and D. When our y is -2, we need our x value greater than 440.5. Okay, notice that is not true for C right here. 440 is not greater than 440.5. So we can eliminate this along with B, along with A. Correct answer has to be letter D, basically by process of elimination. There's no need to check the third point. Because notice here, when it's -2, notice this is 441, which is greater than 440.5. Now, of course, you could go to Desmos and we could graph out the inequality. The problem is we're going to have to zoom out a bit. Yeah, see, it's like way over here. And now, I mean, what we could do is we could just start typing some points. So notice 440. Now, you have to zoom in here because when I'm zoomed out, it looks like it's actually on the border. Now, even if it was on the line itself, it still wouldn't be true because it's strictly greater than. It's not greater than or equal to. But when you zoom in, we can notice here, okay, 440, not on the line. All right, so A is gone and B is gone. Now, let's change this to a 2. Okay, that one works. Now let's check it, the second point in answer choice C. Okay, I'm checking 440, comma, -2. Again, here notice it does not work. It is not in the shaded area, so it is not a solution. So that eliminates answer choice C. Therefore, by process of elimination, it has to be letter D. Okay, so that way, that method I just showed is probably much quicker than actually doing it all out by hand. But just remember, you're gonna have to zoom out initially to get an idea of where the graph is, and then zoom in to look at the points, closer. All right, last question we have here, number 22 on digital practice test 6. Math section, this is module 2A, the easier of the two second math modules. It's just given a situation described in text, convert that into or translate that into a system of equations. So we have the original price for a mirror and vase being $60. Then each of the items are discounted and the new combined price is $39. All right, so here it tells us the original price for the mirror is M and the original price for the vase is V. So right off the bat, okay, you're hopefully going to notice that M plus V has to equal 60. Now that's in every single equation, so whatever, that doesn't really help us, but good to recognize just, for other potential problems. Now, here's where this gets a little tricky. It says after a 25% discount to the mirror. So what you have to recognize is if we're discounting the price of the mirror by 25%, the price that we're left with after the discount will be 75% of the original price. So a lot of people might look to D because they see, oh, 25%, here's 0.25, 45%, here's 0.45. Okay, but that's wrong. That's incorrect. So just to show you briefly what I mean, say the mirror is $100 to begin with. If I'm going to do a 25% discount on this, I'm going to do 25% as a decimal, 0.25 of $100, and that's just $25. And then I'm going to subtract that from the original price. This is the original price, this is my discount amount, and I get my discounted price of $75. So notice now with a 25% discount, the new price is now 75% of the original. Because if I take the new price here and divide it by the original price, 75 over 100, it comes out to 0.75. So the correct answer for this one is going to be letter C. Okay? And the same thing's going to be true with the vase. A 45% discount means that the result, the new price, the result is 55% of the original price. And the way we're getting that again is I'm basically just doing like 1 minus 0.25. Like this is the original price, this is my discount percentage, and then my new price is, the result, 75%. And so with the face, it would be 1 minus the discount, which is 0.45, and then that's equal to 0.55, which is the new price, i.e. 55% of the original amount. And of course, you add those up to $39, which is the sale price, the discounted price. All right, so again, correct answer on this question is letter C. All right, so like I said, that was Digital SAT Math Practice Test 6, Module 2A, the easier of the 2-second modules. Be sure to check out the full solutions and explanations to Module 1 from this same test, and also Module 2B, the harder of the 2-second modules from this same test as well. Also, I've got videos on Desmos hacks, that you can use, especially some operations which are not, not that common, not talked about that frequently. Of course, if you do like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, sign up for notifications as well. And lastly, if you have any questions or comments about this video, please do leave them below.